That was a lovely click at the end, wasn't it? Just feel that. Pick this one up on the mic. Such a nerd. Hi guys, I'm Laura. I am a cinematographer and today I am here to talk about the new XEEN CF lenses, which I happen to have right here. Which were heavier than I anticipated. So I had the joy of being able to use these on a little test run on a showreel shoot the other day. And normally on those shoots, due to budget reasons, we have Canon zooms, which are fine, they do the job. But it was actually really nice to be able to use these instead because they're gonna just, there's so many advantages. But let's start with things like the aperture ring. So if I need to change aperture on the Canons, on the zoom lenses that I own, and I'm working on an FS7 for reference, I have to dial in what the aperture is. And it's not always accurate, to be honest with you. I have to do a lot of this by eye. But what's great here is we've got our aperture ring, which is really, really smooth to use, really, really nice. And for that, I can actually get a reading on a light meter and accurately come back and be like, right, this is what I need to have dialed in, which is really good. Another thing is also, because it shows I haven't pulled focus on Cines for a long time, because I'm not a focus puller, I'm very bad at it. I'm used to using the Canon zooms on those shoots, and so I was like, okay, I don't need to pull focus a huge amount. But what's great is on these, the throw is nice and long and quite even too. So I'm kind of going, okay, fine, this is slightly in focus, this is slightly out, and I'm realizing how much room I've got to maneuver now versus on a stills lens. And it's no disrespect to stills lenses at all, it just works really, really well when you need to be accurate and when you need to know that you are literally an inch away from having someone's eye in and out of focus, and that makes the shot, to be honest with you. The behavior of the lenses is really good as well. The 85 is lovely, you've got this very, very nice shallow depth field and the texture in it is really good. So it's great when it behaves on faces. Sadly on the day I didn't really get to try out the 16mm, but I would love to see I'd just love to see a few skateboard videos with that actually, because that's what, skateboarders notoriously are going to use a lot of wide lenses. I'd love to see how it behaves out on like a gimbal or something like that, because it's actually not, I think, is this our 16? It is, I guess, right. It's actually not too heavy, to be honest with you. For a Cine lens, they're very light. Well, very is a strong word. They're light for Cine lenses. The 35, we'll say, is on the heavier side when it comes to the rest of the lenses. Now, compared to lots of Cines, this is nothing. They are on the smaller side and on the lighter side compared to other Cine lenses that you'd use, unless they are old stills ones that have been rehoused, for example. One benefit of having Cine Primes is that on these you have got the measurements of a T-stop versus an F-stop. And now an f-stop, it's essentially an estimate or a formula to figure out how much light's being let in, kind of. It's a very bad description of what an f-stop is. A t-stop is an actual acknowledgement of, you've got 1.5, you've got 2, 2.8, etc. For stills lenses generally, when you have an aperture ring, you will either have to be able to control that from within the camera, or you'll have to do it on the lens, and they'll often click kind of quite jarring, especially if they're old lenses. But on these, it's very, very smooth. It's a very smooth aperture ring and just be able to glide across. And if I needed to go from outside to inside and I didn't have the lighting support or the time, which I didn't on the day for this, full disclosure, I can do that easily just by small, very subtle movements that shouldn't really be picked up on camera, which is great. The way that these behave in terms of flaring and in terms of distortion and in terms of how it reacts to skin tones, it's great to see footage side by side of the stuff I've shot on the old zoom lenses versus this. And for this, the skin tones behave really, really nicely. They're quite smooth. They're fairly constant across too, which is great. So it does have that nice effect with shadow and skin tone effect. It's not picking up the finest detail, but to be honest with you, on these kind of things, I'd have needed to get quite close to do that. From my experience, they're not the flariest lenses, which is fine. If that's what you want, no problem. They behave fairly well, to be honest with you. They've got a slightly more purplish greenish tinge, but that's something that I need to look at later with a grade and seeing what we got in log. I think you can pair them up with an Ursa Mini, or you think you can pair them up with FS7. I think you can pair them up with maybe an older model of the Red. The FX9, I'm sure, isn't a problem. Any of the C100, C12, C200 range, C3s, I think they're fine. They're easy to use in a documentary environment too, I'd say. If you've got the crew and you don't want to be on zooms, I think that these are fine because they're very quick to load as well. You're not having to faff around too much. And on some lenses, I managed to get these in an EF mount and I just mounted it onto a Metabones adapter on my FS7. quick, seamless, no problem. Whereas I've had to mount a few other Cine lenses with PL mounts onto a PL mounted camera like an Alexa Mini, and it's been a bit of a struggle. And yes, I have got tiny hands, I'm aware of that, but not really the point. It should be seamless for most people. So that is a really big bonus. Things I could see these being used for, you could definitely use these on interviews. I think they're absolutely fine. I think you could use these on some lower budget filmmaking. Say you've got a bit of an indie film crew and it's all self-funded. I think these are absolutely fine. Very nice lenses, very much enjoyed using them. And I think that they are a very nice toolkit for the lower budget kind of style of filmmaking, interviews, what have you. As mentioned, the 35 is probably on the larger side, but I think you've got a really consistent set of lenses here. They're nice, and also by the end of the day, they're very consistent and they're quite stable from what I've seen. You're not going to get a massive change from the 50 to the 35 in terms of flaring and in terms of focus. They're all quite uniform, which is helpful when you're moving around quite quickly and you've got a small crew and you don't have time to tweak everything to match that one lens just because it's perfect for the shot. Okay, camera speed.